Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, The Road to Employment Dynamics on the Map. My name is Yara McSweeney, and I am a program analyst at the Census Bureau. I want to thank you for joining us today at the Best Databases webinar series. This webinar series was created by the Census Academy team here at the Census Bureau, and you can register for any of the webinars by visiting census.gov/academy. Before I introduce today's speakers, let's just go over a few housekeeping items. This webinar is being recorded. For your convenience, it will be posted to our Census Academy site within 30 business days. We'll post all supplemental materials, including the PowerPoint slides. In terms of how to ask questions during the webinar, you can submit your written questions using the Q&A panel, which is at the bottom center or the right side of your WebEx screen. Please take a moment to locate that now. Once you found the Q&A panel, make sure you choose All Panelists from the drop-down menu. This will ensure we see your question. Also, we ask that you do not include any personal or business identifiable information with your questions. My colleagues, Dave Schuler and Heath Hayward, will be monitoring the Q&A panel. As time allows, they will answer your question directly to the Q&A panel, and they will read them out loud to our presenter after her presentation. For any questions that are not answered, feel free to contact us at the contact information we'll provide later. Now let's talk about the chat panel. Look for it right next to the Q&A panel. Keep the chat panel open because this is where we will provide you helpful links and other resources. Keep in mind you won't be able to respond to the chat. Chat is just for us to send you links, including our evaluation. As you know, we're in a virtual environment and sometimes technical difficulties might occur. If you are having issues, try a different browser or consider logging out and coming back into the session. Lastly, throughout the webinar, a link where you can tell us how we did today will be provided in the chat. We're very interested in hearing how we're doing. Okay, so now with all of those administrative items out of the way, I'd now like to introduce today's speaker, Alexandra Barker. Thanks again for being here, Alexandra. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Yara. Hello, everyone. I'm Alexandra Barker. I'm happy to be your presenter today. I'm excited that some of you were able to make to this presentation since we had technical issues last week. I was excited, looking forward to hang out with you last week, but I'm as much excited today to share with you a lot of information about OnTheMap. I am the manager for Census Academy and also supervisor with the Data Dissemination and Training branch of the Census Bureau. And for this webinar, like Yara mentioned, it is managed by Census Academy in partnership with the Data Dissemination and Training branch. I have been with the Census Bureau for about 15 years and now work with the Census Academy, but in the past, during most of my career, I worked as a data dissemination specialist. And before that, I was a survey supervisor with the American Community Survey. So I have had my hands on data for quite some time, whether in the collection process or the dissemination process. So every time I have an opportunity to share a bit of what I know, what I learned with the data users, I feel really excited. I'm going to take this opportunity just to do a few pitches here for us in Census Academy and DDTD, Data Dissemination and Training branch, just to promote our services. In case you're not aware, we have many data dissemination specialists across the country available to conduct trainings and no cost for your organization. They can conduct trainings, presentations, respond to your data inquiries. And in order to learn who is the specialist serving your area, just send us an email. You see on the screen right now the email address, census.askdata@census.gov right here, or you can give us a call. But if you're really looking to request a training, we, at the end of the day, are going to send you to Census Academy, so census.gov/academy, to click on Request a Data Training. And once you fill out this form, this request for training comes straight to our staff, and we'll send a data dissemination specialist to contact you to work with you on your training. While on Census Academy, don't forget to click on Join the Community to subscribe so you can learn about our products and all the educational content we're producing for you. This webinar lasts about an hour. And as Yara mentioned, we'll be working with questions throughout the webinar. And at the end, if there's anything particular that I need to respond or demonstrate, my colleagues Heath and Dave, on the map gurus monitoring Q&A today will help me with that. Just give you a little background. While we're doing this webinar, after we just released 6 data gems about On the Map. So hopefully many of you have had a chance to watch those. Those were like your pre-class material. So if you watch those data gems, great, this will really be helpful for you today. If not, the data gems will serve as a way for you to not forget what you're about to learn. So we're doing this webinar now to review all the content from the data gems plus more, to give you more detail, to give an opportunity to ask questions via chat and really see more interaction with the data on the map. So what I hope that you get from me today is first to learn from what I know and how I do things, because we could have several presenters here for you today, and each one of us work in our systems in a little bit different way. So what you're learning is from me. It's how I usually use the system, how I like to teach it. But ultimately, I want you to leave this webinar knowing how to access data from On the Map, being able to perform analysis for your area, being able to create a service area if you are analyzing a very unique area that's not necessarily the boundary of a city, and then ultimately be able to apply the skill you learned today to some work you're doing for your organization. So hopefully I'll be able to give you enough information that you successfully apply the new skills you're about to get. So let's review what we're going to be covering today. So first, we're going to go a little bit behind the scenes and take a look at what's the technical information you got to have. Yeah, it's not the most fun part of this webinar, but believe me, when you have good knowledge of where the data is coming from, what are the limitations with it, it does help you better analyze. It helps you better tell a story, a more accurate story of what you are looking at. We're going to look at what areas data is available for, and also a few things that I think is important for you to know when working with On the Map. And then after that, we're going to go back to the stage. We're going to look at the actual tool, and we're going to go through many of its features, all the analysis available, and I'm going to conclude with customizing an analysis area. So pretty much the same order we had the data gems, just with a lot more detail. So hopefully with the data gems and this, you're really going to get a good foundation for using On the Map. So first, why should you care? Why should you use On the Map? There are many things you can do with that. And in my career as a data dissemination specialist, I have seen many examples, but the most recent, I was actually with Yara, our host today, at a conference in New Hampshire, and the Planning Commission was there, and they were presenting on some research they're doing. And all the research data came from On the Map. They were looking at commuting patterns, living from a city in New Hampshire towards other states. So the city is located in borders of Massachusetts, very close also to Vermont, and they're using On the Map to determine which commuter routes people are taking, if they're traveling more south, more north, how many workers that were leaving the city to work outside of the city, or how many people actually live in the city that were working there. So it was very neat what they were showing. So as you see here, there are many questions you can answer just by looking at data on the map. So where do workers live? So let's say where I live now. I live in a small town in New Hampshire, right, Windham. The workers coming to Windham for work, are they from a town around here? Are they coming down from Boston, up north in New Hampshire? Or are the workers in Windham living in Windham? Those are questions you can answer with On the Map. Are there a lot of jobs in our Windham downtown? Is the blocks there that have a lot of jobs, or they're scattered throughout the town? But most people in town, if you ask around, they would say to you, oh, the workers in Windham, actually, they all work in Boston. If they're not working from home, they're working in Boston. Is that true? I can go to On the Map and see how many people who live in Windham work in Windham, or how many people who live in Windham are commuting outside of Windham towards Boston, like many people believe it's true here, that a lot of people go to work in Boston. You can also look at workers' characteristics. So the workers working in my town, are they in a higher wage bracket and a lower wage bracket, or they are in a higher age group or a lower age group. Those are many things you can see with OnTheMap, and it's really important tool for emergency management or economic development. If there are a huge influx of workers to my town, a small town, during day hours, we may need to work on the infrastructure. We may need to invest in more businesses providing services like restaurants or transportation in the area to support this population that's coming in for work. If in the case of emergency management, we need to plan evacuation routes because we may have a daytime population that could be 10 times bigger than the actual town population. So these are all things you can use OnTheMap for. So hopefully I'm illustrating it in a way that it relates to some of the things you do and need to do out there. So let's go answer this question. So where do we get this data from? So it's a very interesting program because it's not just as straightforward. We do a survey and you get the data. It's not. We have a program called the Longitudinal Employer Household Dynamics. And the data for that program comes from a partnership that the Census Bureau has developed since the 1990s with several states. As you can see here from my slide, there are a few who are still in the process of getting into this partnership with us. And for that reason, the states in this partnership that send us administrative records, depending on how old their partnership is, you see that data can go back, like to 2004. Some states, their more recent partnership, you won't be able to go back in time with the data as far as 2004 and some other years. So you can really go back in time depending on how old that partnership is. But the data from this partnership is administrative data that comes from the states, and they turn into the Census Bureau. We're going to talk a little bit more detail what exactly this data is, so you know what you're working from. But it's all partnership, and the most recent data set on the system right now is 2019. So let's go take a more detailed look at what we have to create what we call the Linked National Jobs Database. Let me just bring everything to the screen now. I think it'll be easier that way. So in order to create this database of job data for you that supports a lot of the different tools we have as part of the LEHD program, we have three areas feeding into the database. We have data about household data, so characteristics that can come from federal records or our own surveys and censuses. We also need their job data. And the job data will come from employment insurance, wage records, and the Office of Personnel Management. That will feed the job data into the database. And then we need data about firm. Basically, if I want to know what the industry the workers are working for, I'll need firm data. And we can get that from our economic surveys, business registry, and now also the quarterly census of employment and wages. So this creates this national job database that we have access to, and we use to create some of the tools that are part of the LEHD program, which include OnTheMap. So let's look closely at OnTheMap specifically, which is way more simple than this entire graph. So in the production system of OnTheMap, we have data from the quarterly census of employment and wages and unemployment insurance wage data. And I will speak a little bit about unemployment insurance data and some limitations that you have to keep in mind when working with the data set. So all this combined into the production system will give you data about jobs, employer characteristics, and also workers' characteristics for two things: where workers live and where workers work. These two concepts, where workers live and where workers work, are very critical to analyzing data on OnTheMap. So let me expand a little bit in this concept before we move forward. So when on OnTheMap, for the majority of the analysis, well, except one, you have to select if you want to analyze the workers based on where they live or where they work. So if you are analyzing, I'm going to go back to my example of my hometown. So if I want to look, do an analysis about workers who live in Windham, the data is going to come from the home block. So I'm choosing that they live in Windham. Data is available by a block. And you can analyze data for all workers or by characteristics. And when you look at the characteristics available for the home block, the number right next to the characteristic means how many variables you have, basically the breakdown of the variables. So let's say age, So you have 3 breakdowns of age groups that are available for you to look at the characteristics of the workers whose home in my selection area, in this case, Wyndham. So I'm going to start using more and more language that you see in the system, like selection area. So that selection area is now my town, and I'm looking at the workers who live in my selection area, and I'm looking at data for the home block. If I want to look at data for those who work in my selection area, in my town, they could easily live in my town, but they could also live outside of my town. But you'll be able to see the same characteristics that were available for the home block. In other analysis, like the destination or destination analysis, you are looking at data with the home and work block in combination. So for these analysis, you're only going to be able to see all workers or the workers broken down by 3 characteristics: age, earnings, and industry. Once we are on the map, you'll see that it's fairly clear what's available, what's not available. But I just want to give you an idea that you're often going to be being asked by the system to make a choice. Are you looking at those who live here, and they live in your selection area, could work in your selection area or outside of a selection area, or the opposite? You want to look at people who work in your selection area, and they could live there or could live outside of your selection area. So with that, let's go and talk about, can I get data for my area? So what you see now is a geographic hierarchy for the most popular geographies that usually our users access data for. You can get data from OnTheMap for these geographies. Remember, the data starts at the block level, and the block is the building pieces of that puzzle to build the other geographies. And because the data is available at the block level, this gives you a very unique opportunity to create your selection area by combining a few blocks. So if the boundary, let's say, of my city is not enough, my service area is a little bit of my city, and the next door city, a few zip codes, you can create a boundary that will combine all the blocks within the area for you. So it's very neat. It's the last part that we're going to review today. But a few things to keep in mind here. Census geography language can be quite interesting. Just want to point out a few things here. If you want to look at data for cities and towns, we don't call them cities and towns. That would be just too easy, right? So for cities and towns in most of the country, what you need to remember is the word places. That's how we're going to treat them. That's how we call them. That's the category you would find them under. But the Northeast, of course, had to be different. We have townships. So for towns in the Northeast, you would find those towns with the exact boundaries that you would expect under something called county subdivision. The cities are also here for the Northeast. So if I'm looking at data for my area in New Hampshire or Boston, I usually go straight to county subdivision, find my geographies there. I know my boundaries exactly what I wanted. But if I'm not in the Northeast, I will just go to the category places and I'll find all cities and towns with their boundaries right there. So keep that in mind. Okay, so I will leave you just thinking of what geographies you'd be interested. And as we move into our demo, I'm going to work with one particular geography, but stay tuned because for the last example, I'm going to allow you to tell me, at least one of you, tell me what to do, where to go for my analysis, and even maybe it could be a totally bad choice that I'm doing this and it may not work, but I want to make sure I have some interaction with you. So later on, I'm going to do that. Let's take a look at what's important to know. So keep this in mind. And these are things that Data Jam did not cover. We just didn't have enough time in a short micro-learning video. Unemployment insurance, right? We're talking about how the state send data from unemployment insurance to the Census Bureau. Remember that when you're looking at jobs from OnTheMap, because it's from unemployment insurance, it would not cover certain jobs. No post office jobs are included, no military jobs, no self-employed, 1099s, and etc. So those jobs are not going to be included in the data set. Also, those federal agencies, the secretaries, three-letter agencies, the jobs from those agencies, not included. And when you're looking at employment and wages, they are measured at the start of quarter 2. Next, very, very important, we're going to look at distance that workers are going from home to work or work to home. And every time you see a distance direction, we are talking about a straight line between the home block and the work block, not a road network, not a commuting pattern. is a line between block to block, work and home block. Okay, so it's to give you a sense of direction and distance, not necessarily a road network or commute pattern. And last, you'll be able to see industries that the workers are working at the 2-digit NAICS code, North America Industry Classification System. So every industry is assigned a 2-digit code. This is the most broad level of industry, let's say public sector. And more digits we add, more details within the industry the jobs get. For this system, we are at a 2-digit NAICS code. So you'll be able to look at the industry at the very, let's say, more overall broad level. Okay, so now I am gonna go into OnTheMap. There are a few ways you can go there. Let me share with you, give me a second. Hopefully you can all see this well enough, it's not too small on your end. There are a few ways you can go to OnTheMap. One is you can simply go to our website, census.gov, and click on Explore Data, and then Data Tools and Apps. The list of data tools and apps are right there in alphabetical order. Just look for OnTheMap and click on it. We're going to have a website refresher fairly soon, but you still have a menu item here. I don't know exactly how we're going to call it yet. I can record that, but it's going to be there, the list of applications we have. Or you can simply Google it. Honestly, that's how I go about more often. Just remember it's all together, OnTheMap, one single word. And you'll find it's the first offering from Google to take you to OnTheMap. So here is OnTheMap, how we start our search. And as we go along, I will show you a few different features here. Let's look at the Start tab. This is where you're going to select your geography. For our example today, I am going to stay within the same geography for most of it. And I took a look a little bit at our registration list to see who was coming. And I saw there's a big group from Florida, so I designed our first example to be in Florida. So let's say I want to analyze the labor force and jobs in Miami. I'm going to indicate to the system that I want a Miami city. So remember, it's not in the Northeast places, it's just city. And I click search. Now I have different options to select for places with Miami in the name. So Miami City is right here. I just have to select my geography and it will upload on the map. First thing you see is the red kite there, right in Miami, and a little bit of information about even how many census blocks there are there for the analysis. We're going to start looking at analysis right now, and then I'll go into some other features you're actually seeing from the screen. But every time you want to perform an analysis, you can click on this pop-up box. If this disappears, just click back on the red kite, it's right there. If you're done with the selection area, again, you can just change the selection area by clicking here. But I don't know why I just tend to reload. I like to start from a clean slate, and you see me doing that at the end. I find it easier just to clean everything and start fresh. So it's something I really like. So since I'm up here, before we move into performing analysis, there are some resources here for you, including help and documentation, very helpful. There's a document describing each analysis and how to perform them. It's a PDF. It's really useful. You also can go to the entire program homepage where you find so many other data tools for you. They're excellent. So let's start with learning how to perform an analysis on the selection area. We're not even seeing the selection area here yet. So when you click on Perform Analysis, let's see what we get. First thing in this pop-up window called Analysis Setting. For every analysis that you do, you're going to go back to this area. So let me go little by little and explain them to you. First is the home work area. I mentioned a few times, you're going to have to make that call depending on what you're looking to do. So for all the analysis types, but inflow and outflow, you need to make that choice. Inflow and outflow, it really doesn't matter which one you click on, okay? So if you want to look at people who work in your area, then you click work, and they could live there or live outside of your area. If you want to analyze workers who live in your town, but could work in your town or outside of your town, then you select home. For most of my examples, I'm just going to leave work checked off. In two different instances, I'm going to change to home so you see the difference. but the analysis, they behave the same way for whether you choose work or home, okay? So in this case, just to keep it simple, save time, I'm gonna leave work checked off longer. If you're interested in learning a bit more what this means, these question marks next to the menu items are very helpful. So this can describe, for example, the analysis types that you're about to go and select. So let's start with the area profile. So you want to see the labor force for a given area. In this case, I selected Miami. I could just look at my profile for all workers. Remember, unemployment insurance, there's just those limitations. They're not including the data sets, but for all purposes, all workers here. Or I could create my area profile based on one of the characteristics here. However, I tend to not select that up front because once you are on the map, you can select those characteristics while already visualizing the data. So I tend to do that more often, but it's really up to you. Years, again, years are available depending on how long the state has been involved in the partnership. For this first example, I'm just gonna check a few. And then to look at overtime and how trends have changed, I'm gonna look at job type. And if you wanna see how each job type is defined here, click on the question mark. And by default, it says private primary job. So here's reporting on what is the primary job of a worker, and that job is a private job. Or you can select the options. For today, I'm going to use all jobs. This is what I wanted to do. I'm going to leave in all jobs for today, okay? So let's start my first analysis. All settings are ready. It says right here on top what I'm searching for. Area profile analysis for all these years by all jobs. Click go. And now you're really going to see my selection area all surrounded by an orange line. So this is the boundary of my selection area, in this case, in the city of Miami. Let's start by taking a look at the left tab. There are 4 tabs on top. It starts where we selected geography. Base map allows you to add a few different layers. If you want to see where the airports are, railroads, maybe you want to have a layer of maps for the zip codes on top of this to realize what, area this heavily loaded with jobs is in terms of zip codes. You can do that. I'm sorry if you guys are hearing my dog. He's probably seeing a squirrel outside. And then we have the selection tab. We're going to take care of this much later. And the result tab is where we were. From the result tab, the titles can change. So when you print your report, it's customized to your area. So let's say work area profile analysis for Miami. This is what I want to do. I'm not going to change my subtitle right now. And let's look at some of the features here. I chose several years, so I could swap the year I'm looking at the data from this area. I could also change how I'm visualizing the data on the map. So we have thermal overlays. See the color purples in the background? If I remove it, you see what I'm talking about. See? So this shows you the jobs per square mile. So you see the concentration of a darker color where you have a higher number of jobs per square mile. And you have the point overlay, which is actually the concentration of the number of jobs. If you look at the map now, I remove the point, you can see the thermal, but if I remove, sorry, I'm moving this. If I remove the thermal overlay and leave the point overlay, you see all those dots for the blocks, for the number of jobs in those blocks. Let me put it back, the thermal overlay. So right away you can see where some large concentrations of jobs are. If you are from Miami, likely you would know which areas these are, and it makes sense to you. But if you want to see if it is always being like this in Miami, we can look at an animate overlay. They'll help you see if there are changes over time. You see the viewing area is going to change here on top. Let's see how fast this will go. Oh, now loading. Oh, here we go. 2019, 14, 15, and you still see the same concentration of jobs in the same area. So it hasn't drastically changed, right? You should see the animation. In some areas, however, you could see some more changes, or maybe if you get a 2019 year compared to 2003, things could be very different. Next, I want to talk about identify. So let's say there's this big dot here, and I really want to know where and what this is. If I click on identify, and give me a little minute to read the information. Now I have a little question mark on my browser as I move. Let me click on, I want to identify this purple dot here. If I click on that, it will tell you what blocks those jobs are in reference to. So you can see them here, block number and the number of jobs that big purple point is referring to. Of course, you can zoom in, it'll be a lot easier to see. Let me use the zoom in feature so we can come a little closer. There we go. Next, let me talk a little bit about the report and map outputs. You can create a detailed report from every single one of the analysis. I'm going to show you with the area profile, but be aware, every single one of the analysis have their own report, and they're very interesting. We don't have 2 hours here today, so I can really go over in detail for each report, but I really encourage you to take a look. They're really neat. Let me show the area profile. So now it has for Miami, I added that. Talks about total jobs. Look at the years I selected showing it right here. And then start breaking down the job accounts by workers' age and earnings and all those characteristics, the 2-digit NAICS code industry we talked about earlier. It's all here for you for the area that you selected. And again, this could be a completely customized area. You still would get a report. Then jobs by workers' race and workers' ethnicity, and then educational attainment, and then sex. So very, very neat report available for each of the analysis. And as you can see, you can export the report for your own use. Also, a feature that's very interesting for those who work, let's say with ArcGIS or want to explore geography. If you're looking for a shape that we have on this map, or let's say you created your selection area and you want to export that shape, you can export the geography. And of course, you can also print your chart and map. Last, I just want to talk about change settings. You can change your settings by clicking here, or again, like I showed earlier on the red kite. Now, let's move a little bit to the top. You can save your work, and that file can be on another day loaded in the system, so you can start from where you left off. So just name your file appropriately so you know where you're going to be opening next time you're working, but that's, I find, very useful feature here. If you only want to look at the map, you can hide the side panels. Yeah, of course, you can always just go manually and, make them a little smaller so you get more room on the map, but you can also just, hide the tabs. Let's move now to the right side just to take a look at where the charts and the characteristics of your workers are showing. So you have a bar chart view. You can have also a pie chart view. But let me give you an example here. So I'm looking at the total jobs for the area that I selected, the area in orange. Now the broke down by characteristics. Earlier it said you could select a given characteristics to show on the map from inside the map. So this is how you go about it. Let's say that the age population that I am looking for my research is the 55 and older. That's still in the label for. So if it's blue, you can click. So by clicking age 55 and older, now the map is going to show the jobs that are held by, areas with workers with population 55 and older. And the chart can change, let's say, to a pie chart, and you can see that group of workers compared to the other two age brackets. If you're no longer interested in looking at this for this age group, you can reset the table and it goes back to the beginning. So again, you can do that with other characteristics and even looking at just a job for a particular industry, let's say finance and insurance. And the map as well as the chart will change to show you that. Let me reset this. Okay, let's move on to the next analysis. This goes by so fast. So now that I show you all the features, I'm just going to show you analysis by analysis. Let's go to analysis type and change to area comparison. Be aware of one thing. Actually, let me close this. If I want to compare an area, through this analysis, I can only compare areas within my selection area. So I'm not comparing right now this selection area with anything outside. It's areas within. So I select a city. So areas within the city could be, let's say, compare zip codes, compare tracts, compare blocks. If I had selected a county, I could choose to compare cities and towns within the county. But because I chose a city to be my selection area, now I am going to compare within the city. In this case, let me select zip code. I'm just going to check the multiple years. I don't need that anymore. Leave everything else checked. Click go. There you go. So first thing the system will generate for you is the top 10. In my case, I selected zip codes that have the high number of jobs. You can change to top 25, top 50. Not only you see them highlighted on the map, but you also have the list here. So this can tell you where by zip code within your selection area you have the highest number of job counts, right, per zip code. So really neat analysis, a fairly simple, easy one. Also, a detail report is available. Let's look now at a little bit more complex. Actually, before I go there, just so you know, you can also break down by segment of workers characteristics if you wish to see, compare zip codes, let's say for workers, again, 55 and older. Let's talk about distance and direction, the next analysis, and click go. Remember that I have work selected. So I'm looking at folks who work in my selection area in Miami. So for those who work in Miami, what does it mean here? It means that for those who work here, the majority drive less than 10 miles to work. So they're likely the ones who live in Miami and work in Miami. Then the next group drive 10 to 24 miles. Again, it's a line, a straight line, not a commute. So I'm saying drive, but you're talking about a straight line between work and home block. So you know the distance, and you also know here the direction they're traveling. So those who work in Miami, they're coming from north, south, and then west. Maybe a few coming from Miami Beach right here, as you can see, very small group. If I were to change this and look at for those who, instead of just work in Miami, they live in Miami, where are they going? So let's say workers who live in Miami, again, the great majority are likely also working in Miami based on the miles here and the radius being so dark in the center. But for those who live in Miami, if they are going outside of Miami, it seems the majority are moving north towards, say, Fort Lauderdale area here. So this is, again, a very neat analysis. And if you want to highlight any of the jobs, let's say 25 to 50 miles, you click on the blue area, and you'll be able to see for those driving that number of miles, well, direction miles, which direction they're going, which is north. Let me go to total jobs again. And let's click on the next analysis. Let's perform analysis again. And let's look at destination. So destination, you also have a drop-down menu. And I'm going to leave work checked. So for those who work in my selection area, Miami, what are other cities they're going to, they're coming from to work in Miami? Or other county subdivisions, other zip codes. So in this case, you're looking from outside of the selection area too. So you can really select so many different geographic areas that people could be coming from to work in Miami. Again, Miami becomes my work area. So I'm just going to keep cities and towns here. And now I'm going to see, for those who work in Miami, where are they coming from by city. So let me click go. And here we have it. So again, top 10 could be top 25. I'm just going to do that for our analysis now. These are the top 25 cities and towns where workers who work in Miami are coming from. Again, great majority are within the city itself. The other groups are coming from other cities because I chose the drop-down menu to tell me which cities they're coming from. I could have said, give me the zip codes they're coming from. Give me the congressional districts they're coming from. But I chose cities. So these are the cities and towns where workers who work in Miami are coming from. If you switch to home, for those who live in Miami, where are they going for work? We're back to the top 10. I'm not going to even change. But again, those who live in Miami, great majority also work in Miami. But if they don't work in Miami, they're leaving the city to work. These are the top cities and towns where they're going for work. So think of emergency management or community planning. This would really help you identify a lot of different characteristics that can really help with your planning here. Now let's move into the last analysis here, which is my favorite. I really find simple but fascinating, is the inflow and outflow. For this analysis, it doesn't matter your selection because it's really going to give you information about home and work. So inflow and outflow. Let me share that one with you. Okay. So what is this showing you? And we have a great representation here too, where the two circles intersect, which is the color green. So this is showing us that about 56,000 people live and work in the selection area. We have about 114,000 who live in the selection area, but get out of the selection area to go to work. At the same time, we have about 244,000 people who do not live in the selection area, but come in for work. So this tells you what a daytime population or work population could be in the city of Miami, based on inflow and outflow of people based on jobs in the city. And of course, you can work and look at the data at the side tab as well to get some more detailed information here. So I'm going to show you now how to perform a analysis, and we're going to use the inflow and outflow for an area that you decide to select. So right now, if you are on the Q&A panel, or if you're not, go there. The first person who put the name of a city for me there, I want a city, I'll use that as my example. I may learn a little bit that was a bad idea, but let's give it a try. So we're more interactive here. So go ahead, put the name of a city there, and I'll work from that. Meanwhile, while we're collecting a name that I'm going to use, I am going to reload. I'm going to start from scratch here. So I'll click and reload. Here we go. Okay, can one of my moderators send me information on we have, Tacoma City. Dave, just let's make sure that this cannot be a town or there's any county or anything with that name too. So we're talking about city, correct? Here you go. So we have Tacoma, and I am going to go for places here and just search. So I'm not familiar at all with this city in Washington State, but this is where I'm going to go for myself to create my analysis. And of course, you don't need to pre-select a city at all. You can just zoom in on the map, and I do that so often. Let me stop this and show you a little bit. So let's say I really don't want to have anything to do with the boundary of a city here. I just want to go to the area of Tacoma, and there is a little area there that's really important to me. I'm just going to zoom out, and that's the area I want to work with. Hold on. So right here in this area. Okay. So I'm going to keep clicking, double clicking. I'm going to go back and zoom again. So if we were in an area I'm familiar with, I would not even select a search for any city and town. I would just zoom in, and because I know, let's say, where Boston is, and I'll start selecting my area there. So I see there are there are some highways here or interstates. I'm not familiar with the road system. I don't know where downtown is, but I see there's a university. So let's say the area I want to select is this line that goes from the, I think that's, Highway 5th through the 16. I'm going to select this area for my analysis. I want everything in this area to be the area I get an analysis for. So this is what I'm going to do. First thing, I want to, just for this example, to go to the base map. I'm not familiar with the area. Let's say I want to see if there's any airports in the area. Oh, that's pretty far. Do I have any Amtrak stations and railroads? Oh, it seems like the 5th, it's goes to a busy area here. Let's see, I already know there's a university right there. Oh, there's a lot of schools there too. Okay, so this layers can really help you visualize some things in the area that may be important for your analysis. But I want to take you to the selection tab. And this is the selection I have now, but actually I'm going to clear that. I really don't want that selection whatsoever. And you don't have to come here and previous shape, use, and delete. But for some reason, I'm so used to do that. That's me. Again, I always delete everything. I like everything to start clean and fresh. So this is the area I want to highlight. So there are a few things I could do here. I could draw a polygon and say, I want my area to be, let's say, this. Double click, release, it's pink. That's now your selection area once you confirm. So once you confirm, you're going to get the orange line. And all the blocks, oh, I want to click on one CD. Here we go. Keith, I may need your help here. I may need to jump in because I can't get this cleared. Let me try again. Let me confirm selection. Hopefully Tacoma is not going to show again. It is showing again. Okay. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to reload. And I'm just going to zoom in on the map. And we should be, okay, here we go.
Alexander, you had your add layer selection set to places. So if you clear that.
Oh, I see. I didn't even look at that. Thank you. But now I'm zooming in. It should be fine. I don't want to hold people much longer. Let me zoom in. Here we go. Let me go back and find my highway that I've been trying to analyze. There we go. I'm just going to zoom in one bit more. So I like to be very close to the area. Here we go. Okay. So let's say I want to go back to the selection tab, and I'm going to draw a polygon. And my area is going to be this weird shape, but this is what I want to analyze. Double click. Now confirm. Once you confirm, it should be your orange line out, selection area. You can perform any analysis for this area. But before we do that, I want to show you that you can also use some buffers to your selection. So let's say that I wanted to create a donut inside around this for my analysis. This is how it would work. So let's say the inside of my donut would be 0.1 miles from the selection area. So probably go around here. And then the outside, I wanted to go at 0.5 mile. Once you do this, just click outside of the boxes and confirm selection. And what you're going to get now, and this is really small, is all your analysis is going to be done for this area inside the donut here. So it's going to exclude the center. It's just going to be blocks aggregated to make up this area. Okay. Here we go. So let me delete the selection. Delete the selection. Okay. Let me remove and let me clear everything here. Here we go. Now let me show you, for instance, a draw point. So let's say that I wanted to analyze the area where the university place is. I'll drop a point, and I may want to, again, to do, let's say, a donut that's 0.1 mile from that point and 0.5 from that point. Confirm selection. And now my analysis area is just this area. Let me zoom in to show you a bit what it would look like. Go very close. Oh. Okay. So my analysis would show the data for this area here. Okay. Let me clear selections, clear shape, and just on me again, being very, about everything being clean. I'm going to zoom out, and I'm going to show you one last thing and a full complete analysis of a selection area. Let's say I remember the airport was somewhere in here, or it's a military Navy base. I'm going to draw a line because I want to use the highway as my reference. So let's say I want an analysis that goes from where the highway starts. So you can click as you go to make the design of your line. So I'm clicking here, meet 16. For whoever is in this area, I am not sure if I'm even in a busy area. I could have done this for the Silicon Valley as he suggested today. We would have a lot of stuff going on the screen. But let's go to wherever you guys want to go. So I'm going to stop right here and double click to get the pink line. So this is the area I selected, right? So now I'm going to use a buffer, and I'm going to use the simple ring to create a radius for my analysis. And I want to analyze everything that's, let's say, 0.5 miles from this line, from this highway. Click outside of the box, confirm selection. Here we go. So my analysis area is exactly this inside, and in this case includes everything. It's a simple ring, so it doesn't have the donut hole in the middle that would exclude those blocks. This one includes everything that's within. Just remember that some blocks may spill outside of the line a little bit, so it's aggregating the full block. Even there are some criteria that determine which blocks to stay inside and outside based on the line. But if you need information about that, reach out to us. It's a very technical information, and we can share just to you. But let's perform an analysis here. Let's click on the red kite, click on perform analysis. And I mentioned I was going to go back to inflow and outflow. Click go. So let's see. So for this little area that I created, let's say that I'm a planning commission, and I'm working on emergency plan, economic development plan for the neighborhood, the areas around this highway. So I know from the people who live here, about 971 also work here, right? About 11,000 people who live here leave this area for work. But we have about 22,000 coming in for work in this small area that I selected. This is a whole lot of people. So if they're working here, I may have to think, like, do we have enough businesses to support them? Do we have, let's say, maybe a hospital nearby? Do we have enough transportation sources for the area, restaurants? If there is an emergent situation, how can we evacuate all these people that are there? Generally don't live there, will need to leave the area. Do we have enough, like, commuting routes so they can get out of there? So this will help you understand the level of inflow and outflow you have in an area to make those decisions. So again, this is a very unique area. It's not bound necessarily by a city boundary or zip code. It's aggregating data from the block level and lets you be much more flexible with your location. And I find this to be, from all the tools the Census Bureau has, one of the most neat things we can do because it is very customizable. So I know we are at the top of our hour here, and I want to see if he and Dave have any questions you want to send to me, pass on to me, or if you have taken care of all the questions. Is there any questions for me or anything you'd like me to show?
Currently, all the questions have been answered in the Q&A. So if there are any additional questions.
Okay. Thank you. Same thing for you, Heath. You guys being able to handle questions?
Yes, I think all questions have been answered. So
okay.
We welcome any additional questions.
Yeah, or I have 4 minutes. If you guys want to see another area, send them my way. I'll give my best. Okay. If nothing else is coming, no more questions, just let me know, because I can't see the chat.
it's asking if there's a good email to reach out for technical assistance, and certainly there is. You can reach out to the askdata.census.gov or directly to the OnTheMap folks.
Like Heath is our OnTheMap guru.
I'll turn that one to you.
Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah, the email that I recommend is ces.onthemap.feedback@census.gov.
Can you share that via chat with us, Keith, please? Thank you. And all folks, please don't leave just yet. I really would appreciate if you take the time to fill out our feedback form. Although I'm rusty in presenting, and it has been a little while because I'm working a lot of those data gems that you see out there. I'm really excited to present, but I want to hear your feedback because there are things I can do better or things that you like. We can always share that with other presenters too, so we can continue to provide quality services to you. So take the time. We are sharing via chat the link to the feedback form. Right, guys? Is that there for everyone? Take the time between now and the next few minutes to fill out the feedback form. I truly appreciate that. And I'll pass on to our host, Yara, if you have any more announcements.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Alexandra. That was certainly a very great presentation. I learned a lot from you today. So at this point, we just want to thank everybody who played a role at today's webinar. And of course, thank you, our audience, for spending the time with us this afternoon. Like Alexandra said, please take a moment to fill out the evaluation by following the link that's provided in the chat. We hope that you'll let us know not only what we can improve on, but what you really enjoy about this session. And of course, look out for the recording and the PowerPoint presentation on Census Academy by visiting census.gov/academy. We also want to remind you of our next webinar in this series. It's called Your Community by the Numbers, Race and Ethnicity, and that's on Thursday, March 22nd at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So that will bring us to a close. So we thank you again, and we hope you have a great afternoon. Thank you.